when I was in prayer and ruminating on whether or not I would run for this seat, the Massachusetts 7th, I was at an event, and I see Jordan here. I was at a Mass Alliance event, and Lydia Edwards and Damali were the guest speakers for the event. And Lydia had just been elected, and Damali had just been elected council president, I believe. And Lydia Edwards got up there and she said, you know, progressives do bold things. And Damali said, nothing changes if nothing changes. And that night I went home and I said to my husband, I think we're gonna do this. And so I wanna thank you for doing what you do so effortlessly, which is creating space for others to show up in the world authentically and unapologetically as themselves, to take up space. And you know, I don't want us to for a second take for granted the authentic leadership of this goddess and this warrior for social justice. Now, I'm wearing a sticker with your name, so I'm wearing you on my lapel because of what you do every day in leading us, in fighting alongside us, and when we are too weary to fight, you carry us on your back. And I thank you for that. Now, before I get into some formal remarks, I do want to just take a moment. Many of you know, for 6 years I was a hotel worker, and this is one of the reasons why I love Damali so much, because you know, we all know we're living in intersectional trauma and structural oppression. We know what it is to be marginalized, to be rendered invisible, for your contributions to not be seen or celebrated. And that is certainly true for people in the service industry. So can we take a moment and just thank the banquet staff and everyone who is taking good care of us this evening and made this event possible. So I'm so proud to be here. I had to be here because when I would look out into an audience before a debate or a town hall, or not sure if someone was going to show up to kick off a canvas, or at a rally, Damali was always there. And so I had to be here today because you have always shown up for me as a sister in service, as a social justice warrior, as a fearless advocate, and as a goddess. And I'm not only here because you show up for me. I'm really here because you show up for the community every day. And we find ourselves in unprecedented times, experiencing unprecedented hurt, a tsunami of hurt, because of really legislated hate. When it comes to this administration and their policies, the cruelty is the point. And when it comes to their culture, the corruption is the point. Now, we are going to do everything we can to evict the occupant of the White House. But in the meantime, we need to both resist and stave off these hourly insults and attacks to our civil rights, to our civil liberties, the undermining of our democracy. We have to resist and we have to progress. And we need leaders like Damali on the municipal level standing in the gap in the midst of these attacks on our community. And once we evict the occupant of the White House, we will be in the residual aftermath of all the hate that he legislated. And we will need to dig out, and we will need leaders that will stand in the gap. And so that's why I had to be here, because unprecedented times where we are experiencing unprecedented hurt demand and require from all of us bold activist leadership. And what I love about Damali is that she models leadership in partnership with community. She knows how important that it is to remain in proximity to the hurt, That's what keeps you honest. That's what makes sure that you never grow complacent, right? You know, she knows that the people closest to the pain need be closest to the power, driving and informing the policy making. She is a true partner. And she also knows that no matter how much we stand in the strength of our conviction as lawmakers, as legislators, as leaders, that ultimately the work of progress happens not singularly for the convictions of lawmakers, but for the courage of everyday people, like all of you in this room. And so when we talk about showing up in a real way to support Damali and her bravely challenging the status quo and being disruptive in how she has run and won campaigns and in the candidates she has supported and how she has governed, this is a paradigm shift. This is a revolution. In our race, and I know Winelia's in here somewhere, and Marisol, and Catherine, in our race, the polls had us down a week out from Election Day by 13 points, and we won by a decisive 17. Now, why is that? Because you can't poll transformation. And transformation is afoot. And leaders like Damali are ushering in that transformation. A politics that is not based on transaction. Before you ask someone for their vote, that you are asking them about their life and their struggles and lifting up their ideas and their innovation and extending a hand of partnership. Damali knows that folks haven't stayed home and not voted because they're ignorant and apathetic and don't know better. They've stayed home because they know too much, because they live it every day. Broken promises because of broken systems. So this is a revolution. And guess what? Revolutions require resources. And so we have to all invest in this revolution, in this paradigm shift, in this coalition and movement building. We have to invest with our sweat equity. We have to invest financially. And please do continue to keep this sister covered and prayed up, because I don't ever want them to rob her of her joy, because we need her to continue to walk in that. You can hand clap on that. Now I'm wrapping up here, but I got a couple more important things I want to say. So these times demand and require bold activist leadership, not only in Washington, but on the municipal level. And Damali exhibits that every single day. And her work for environmental justice, for transit equity, for housing justice, for violence prevention, for youth development. She is there for everyone who has been ignored, left out, and left behind. Creating space for every voice. And as I said, in talking about her joy, and someone mentioned earlier the word love, you know, a lot of times people get things twisted about progressives. And they talk a lot about our anger, especially as women of color. But there is nothing wrong with righteous rage. And there is plenty to be upset and angry about. But please know that that righteous rage comes from a place of deep and enduring love. Love of community, love of justice, right? Dr. Cornel West said, never forget that justice is what love looks like in public. Thank you, Damali, for fighting for justice every single day and showing us what love looks like in public. And then finally, she does not do this work alone. She does this with community. But I'm so heartened by and often emotional when I see her with her mini goddess, Nina, and when I see her with Tony. And I want us to just wrap our arms around this family and acknowledge that for Damali and for every dedicated public servant here in government who has a comma after their name, and if they don't, that they are making innumerable personal sacrifices, laboring in love because they care so much about this community. So Damali, I'm here as your sister in solidarity, committed to making sure that you are decisively returned to the city council, because this city needs you and the people deserve you.